Pretty intense.
It means you're
there.
living life right.
It is, and driving too fast. And
Anytime you can get air in a car.
You're living Moss.
in an SUV.
Yeah, exactly. Have you got the Beamer, Skyborn?
Well,
No.
I think Living Moss, as Mike just noted, is a perfect transition to get us into our latest episode, which Mike is also going to be gushing over start to finish. Total spoiler alert. But welcome back to Rabbit Troop Sucks. And as always, we are a podcast about obscure, forgotten about, and often overlooked films. And we're going to be looking at The Crow from 1994 today, celebrating its 30th anniversary. And as always, I am Paul. Next to me is Mike. Whoa, he's crowing out already. I told you, this guy is going to be like a pure crow.
The crow is here in the studio.
He's wearing a Black Crowes t-shirt.
I'm wrapped in electrical tape for some reason.
Mike's painting his face when we're not looking.
Yeah.
There's always a white substance around his nose.
Well, I mean, that's
Yeah, what is that?
He's crowing out.
What was that?
that's normal.
He's crowing out. Lamar is here.
Hello.
Emily is making her Rabbit Troop Sucks debut. Coming in from Korea.
All right.
Bam.
안녕하세요.
Which Korea are you coming from?
She escaped.
Your business.
It's not about
Probably got
that.
out of the north.
Don't worry about it.
She knew we were talking about the crow, and it's time to leave Korea. That's all the listeners need to
North,
know.
south, who can say?
There you go.
Jeremy's here.
That's right. Fired up.
And just fire it up, man, fire it up. And we got Collin.
Yo.
Hi, we got a whole full group here with the crow.
What would Colin's gang name be if he were part of the crew in The Crow?
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Trick pony?
Trick pony.
I'm going to read the first IMDb summary. There's a lot of other long ones that seem like really dedicated, but I'm just going to read this, which is really kind of crappy. A man brutally murdered comes back to life as an undead avenger of his and his fiance's murder.
I mean, that's accurate.
Short and
guess.
sweet.
Yeah, not really.
It left out all the dumb parts.
I mean, it was just
Very descriptive.
That was like an AI driven, like to the point, or like a tweet.
Well, they wanted people to watch it, so they didn't want to tell the truth.
Oh,
Damn.
Mike
Too soon.
Mike has on his crow pajamas.
I do.
Mike's gonna be gushing. I told you. Mike's gonna be gushing all over this. So yeah, 1994. So I mean, clearly the backdrop of this movie, like just etched in sadness, is this is the movie that took the life of Brandon Lee, who died at the age of 28 making this film. And this movie's just steeped in this. And this movie was not complete. This movie had unfinished scenes and was put together, from what I read, with the agreement from Brandon Lee's fiance and the Lee estate. They all wanted to work with director Alex Proyas, I think that's how you pronounce his name. And they came to an agreement, and they thought this would be released pretty much as a tribute, acknowledging that this movie was not fully complete. And again, Brandon Lee died making this. So let's start with the director. The director has another movie I would love to do on this podcast, which is Dark City.
That is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
Same.
and you could totally see like the early thoughts in the setting, like the scenery of the Crow. You could totally see,
especially driving down the street
Yes.
towards the end.
totally,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm like, oh wow, like if someone was like, that's the same director, I'd be like, this guy did not skip a beat. So
No.
you like see those early ideas. Yeah, I would love to do Dark City. He did I, Robot, a movie I've never seen. I know it's very polarizing. I kind of really want to see it. Gods of Egypt.
That movie is unwatchable.
Oh, really?
Oh my
also-
God,
wait,
that is.
You
I,
like
Robot?
No,
or,
Gods of Egypt.
Okay.
But you like movies that I hate, so maybe you'll enjoy it.
Well,
Yeah, but that's just poor.
Well, I knew going into it would just be like a crap film. But I've read like some user reviews where it's like, I had fun with this crap film. It was crappy. Where other people are taking Mike's stance, they're like, no, it was crappy
it's
and
bad.
awful. So I'm like,
So like Madam Web-esque?
nothing
is
is
that.
really bad as Madam Web.
Have you guys seen that movie?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
terrible. Don't ever
No.
watch
I
it
haven't
for
seen it
any
yet.
reason. There is no reason for you to watch that film.
Lamar is just shaking his head.
Yeah, it's not even. You're not going to find jokes.
Honestly, I thought that was better than this movie.
Oh my god!
I'm just kidding.
I was like, that's insanity.
I mean, this movie sucks,
Strangling
but
Mike right
nothing is as bad
Oh
as
my
Madam
God.
Web.
This movie, if Mike really took that approach, I'd be like, this movie wasn't even finished, and I would
Right.
agree that it's better than Madam Web. So you have this director who's kind of notable. He's done some other films as well. The writer is James O'Barr. Clearly most notable. Not only is the writer of The Crow, he's the artist of The Crow, which really kind of puts it all together.
wow.
So he's best known for that, and there have been other Crows released. Brandon Lee, I really feel, is known for 3 films. I know there are other films and things he's done, but the 3 I feel are The Crow, Rapid Fire, and Lamar. I think we might revisit Brandon Lee one day, maybe Showdown in Little Tokyo. We went to go see a viewing of Big Trouble in Little China that was hosted by Macaulay Culkin at the Alamo Drafthouse. And Lamar and I were there.
That was cool.
And Macaulay Culkin and his crew accidentally loaded up Showdown in Little Tokyo at first. And Lamar's like, damn it, now I just really want to watch that film.
Yeah, man.
And that is Brandon Lee and Dolph Lundgren. Have you seen this, Mike?
No.
Oh, we should totally do this at some point in time. Okay. It's not very good.
I would expect nothing.
You've got to know that going into it. Michael Wincott plays uncredited. I'm glad they didn't use his name. This all comes from James O'Barr's comic book. His character is Top Dollar, and I'm glad they don't use that because, again, this comes from a comic book, and if they did, I wish they would have just changed it. He is, for me, best notably known from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, 1991. He plays the crazy cousin. Why a spoon, cousin? And then Strange Days. I actually saw it in the theater with Jeremy. And Dead Man and the Doors movie. So he's been in a lot. Rochelle Davis plays Sarah. I don't know much beyond what this. Ernie Hudson, the last time we saw Ehud was No Escape, 1994. Same composer, too. Graham Revell does both movies. We get some other people throughout the film. But yeah, we are introduced to Detroit the day before Halloween. It is Devil's Night, and everyone's planning to burn down the city. This is a year before the movie really takes place.
So I'm a little confused about that. So every October 30th is Devil's Night, and this gang of curmudgeons they burn down Detroit, and then I guess Detroit just rebuilds itself throughout the year so that it can be burned.
They attempted to have a plot where it made sense, but they didn't really elaborate on it. Like, I guess these guys were trying to convince the owner of this dope condo to sign some kind of tenant agreement. There was a land dispute. Yeah. They mentioned this a couple times offhand.
Yeah, but it is not fully
put
fleshed
up
out.
Casinos, because the town that I saw in this film was
it's
3 shakes away from being Somalia.
It's the trash district from that Cuba Gooding Jr. movie.
Jeremy, when's the last time you've seen Detroit? You're very
I've been to
accurate.
Detroit several times. It was never as bad as I saw.
Didn't look
in the
quite
movie.
like that.
Yeah.
No, but I agree with Jeremy. I mean, it really comes down to, what Mike said is true. It is pretty much a land dispute, but it's not really fleshed out. And this guy, again, thank God they're not using his comic book name, Top Dollar, but I'm going to keep noting that. Or cousin, or whatever you want me to do.
What is his name in the movie? Did nobody call him by any name?
So that whole crew, the tighter trio, is Micah, Grange. Micah's the sister, quote unquote. Grange is Candyman,
Right.
and he is Top Dollar, and none of them are ever called out by name.
No,
So they're not afraid of fucking T-Bird or
I don't.
Funboy or
I don't
whatever.
mind. I don't.
Can we call him Silky Locks?
I don't mind the names T-Bird and Funboy and stuff. It's clearly gang affiliated. These guys are just degenerate douchebags.
Yeah.
Even the other detective talks to Ernie Hudson. He's like, "Don't they have real names?" He's like, "No."
Nope.
But I would have been more taken aback if it was Top Dollar told me. I'd be like,
Oh yeah, that would have been bad.
please don't.
And their names are barely mentioned, so it takes a little of the comedy effect off, if you will. So
Yeah.
you're not hearing, "Oh, Tintin told me the other day
Well,
that blah blah blah."
so
I mean, come on.
Tintin.
Yeah, and so I tried to do as much reading as I could about some of the scenes that were added to piecemeal this together. And again, this movie was not complete. I don't really have a percentage of what's going on, but I did read, sometimes there's stunt doubles involved, sometimes like shadow effects. If you watch this, like this is coming off, this is clearly not Brandon Lee. So even these opening narration sequences, I believe, were added at the end. So it opens up like Sarah talking about like people once believed, like there's a crow, and if you die, your soul is taken to the afterlife by the crow. But if it's too terrible of a thing, the crow's like, I'll bring you back for some revenge times. So there's one big thing that I read that was cut out of this film, and this is not in the graphic novel, at least in my memory of any of this. There is a huge thread in this film, like a big story arc where I guess this like ghost cowboy,
spirit cowboy.
Yeah, keeps like, and I've seen pictures of this, like this is true. And I do want to note that upon release of our podcast of this episode, days after, there's going to be like a remastered Crow 30th anniversary like 4K release, and I know there's like a bunch of extras.
Are they gonna CGI ghost cowboy like they did with Jabba?
I don't. I would hope if it was there, it would just be like extra scenes. Like I have seen.
It's just a sock puppet.
I have seen it. Like it is like a dude. Like you could look this up. There is like a dude like kind of like shadowy, bony stuff in the side. But the whole thread that I read was like, so here's the deal with the crow. Like he's brought, Eric, I should say. And also on Mike's end, in the comic book, he does not have a last name. It's just Eric. And Eric is not a heavy metal guitarist. He's just a mechanic.
Wait.
Yeah.
They made up his last name for the movie?
For the movie, they did.
Okay, can I pose a question to you?
Oh my God.
They made up the last name Draven.
No, I agree with you, Mike. Totally. Like, what the hell?
All the birds in this movie are ravens. He quotes the poem The Raven. Why are they leaning into the ravens so hard?
They're all corvids, Mike. Just let it go.
No, I can't let it
corvid's
go.
a corvid.
They're very clearly not crows. Because crows are small.
Mike, all blackbirds look the same.
That is
Hey.
very
Whoa. Can we?
I mean, I'm a well-known racist, as we know, but come on.
Mike just put on a mask. He doesn't want any bird
Oh
flu.
boy.
Blackbirds aren't even corvids. Corvids are black
man.
birds.
Oh man.
God
Here we go.
Damn it. That's right.
I told you, man. I didn't do any reading on the movie, but I came for the birds.
You're here for the
Here
bird
for
talk.
the bird
Yeah,
watching.
We got some bird law.
So again, I know
Ornithology.
Mike has some angst with like his name is Eric Draven. In the comic book, it makes sense. His name is not. It is just Eric. And
It's
that's
not
all
really
you...
angst. I just think it's stupid.
No, I don't disagree
that's
with you at all. So yeah, I mean things were changed. I don't remember any kind of like thread of the spirits, but this ghost cowboy essentially kind of notes this deal.
Mike's losing.
Well,
You can't.
Fucking ghost cowboy. I can't.
Well-
it's like fucking Ghost Rider all over again.
Kinda. Well, I'm glad they took it out, but I do like this idea. So, and there's two things that I want to note that like were deleted and edited. The other thing is bigger. So, this ghost cowboy apparently tells Eric in some capacity, like, dude, you are only here to get revenge. You have to go and kill all these people. Which I think is kind of like this crazy badass story. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
And this
Like,
ghost cowboy.
you've been hitting up the casinos way too much.
So
Stay on track.
So I guess this ghost cowboy is also like, if you get off track, you will lose your power. Don't do other stuff. And so
That's a good point, because he seemed to know that he had to get this done, but no one told him. Because I'd have been like doing cocaine and scratch tickets the whole
well,
time.
so like there's scenes where we get to where he like cleans up Darla and like gets the heroin out of her
Yeah.
system. And
Yeah.
that's a big no-no. So apparently another scene is that dude like reappears and is like, I told you could only be killing these people.
Like that's a side quest he
And
should
so-
have gone on.
And now when you do that, like your
Don't
weekend.
fuck with the NPCs.
So when Fun Boy shoots him, he actually can't really heal from those wounds, and that's why he starts bandaging himself up with duct tape.
I was gonna ask
That
the
like that
electrical
there, yeah.
tape
So
on
there's
the
like
shirt.
stuff.
Yeah.
Missing. And the other thing, and I'm like, I know that sounds cheesy. There's this ghost cowboy stuff, but there is something that kind of enhances it for me. But that was edited out as well. That he's like, you're only here for revenge. Like your sole purpose of us bringing you back 1 year later is revenge. This movie was like, it went through like 7 tests and it was NC-17 each and every time. And I'm like, this movie should have been NC-17. And I guess Miramax was like, we don't produce like NC-17 films, and it should have totally been NC. Like, because now I feel not what we have, but this idea I could sell Mike on way more. Like the idea is, hey, it might be a little gothy and you don't like this, but it's an NC-17 bloodbath where this dude like puts on some makeup and just starts ripping people in half. And I think Mike would be like, I'm intrigued.
I mean, like, I know I complain about the gothy stuff because I think it's dumb, but like, this movie it would have been fine if like he didn't. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, it's no one's fault. Like, it wasn't a finished movie, and it sucks.
It was rushed.
Yeah, like,
I mean, they did the best that they could.
If they filmed this movie and Brandon Lee and Eric Proyas sat down and were like, "Yeah, this is what I wanted. This is the movie I thought we should make," then I would complain more. Like, clearly they cobbled it together. I just think the only reason anyone cares about this movie is that he died making it. And I think that's sad. And this movie sucks.
I like it. I like this movie going through. I mean, clearly, I feel this movie needs a lot of help. And it's really hard to assess some of it because, like, again, this became like a group's passion project and like memoriam to Brandon Lee. So it's like, this isn't done. So it's kind of like weird. Like, you have to like not be able to fully grade this to a certain extent because like you just don't know like a lot of stuff. But yeah, I mean, like, you could totally grade, like, the finished product and be like, this is what it is. But, like, there is clearly, like, a looming idea of, like, what was going to come. And I think the biggest and saddest part is this. As I noted, those 3 Brandon Lee films, including this one, this is clearly his best. And even if, like, anyone finds his acting a bit rough or, whatever in this film, I mean, you could totally see the potential in this actor. One, this is a super good-looking guy. This guy comes from basically, like, acting royalty. He's the son of Bruce Lee.
I mean, there was no one hotter.
Okay.
Like, from a woman's perspective
Like
in the 90s. Totally.
Not even Fun Boy.
Okay. You make a good argument.
Hey, fun boy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and, like, I just think, yeah, like, this is, like, a good-looking guy. You see a lot of potential. People, like, I really wonder what his next project was going to be. This clearly was like the start of bigger and better things for this guy, and I think that's like abundantly clear. And then, tragically, he loses his life, and we still feel the echoed effect of, that movie Rust, which this is like they brought up The Crow every which way, that someone else died, and there were supposed to be safety precautions, and guns shouldn't be loaded in certain ways, and a lot of actors and people in Hollywood now are like, we shouldn't even use things with blanks. Like, we have the technology to not even need this. So,
are they going to release Rust?
I don't know.
Yes,
Are
I
they?
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's what the last I had heard. Yeah.
It's a question. Like, just knowing what happened on these sets of The Crow and Rust, does that change your perspective going into the movie, watching it? Like, you're sitting there trying to get lost in this movie. Like, I saw this movie in a theater. Yeah. And the whole time just thinking, where's the scene where he's shot?
Yeah.
Oh, man, he was shot.
Do you
this
think
is his last scene the whole time. Just like, I don't know if you can escape in the movie watching that, knowing that.
Yeah, do you think anyone who watched this movie didn't know going into it?
Yeah, that's another good question.
Yeah,
well, of course. It doesn't help the movie.
Well, I mean, as Lamar has brought up, I think that's like a very pertinent question for this film. Jeremy and I saw this in the theater, and I absolutely knew the backstory. I mean, this was huge.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, I remember when it happened. Like, I remember, like, in 93, reading an article, like, the son of Bruce Lee died making this film. And I thought at that point, like, that was it. And then, like, again, like, anyone could go online, read the backstory, like, it was sold off. Miramax bought it, and then it was like a cult success. But yeah, I mean, like, watching this film, it was very clear. I'm like, this actor is deceased, and he did it. This happened in this film. I thought it was huge.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but like, everyone is rating this movie based on like what could have been and the tragedy surrounding it. Like, no one, I feel, gives an honest interpretation of the finished product.
Yeah.
Like, if I cooked you a meal and I ran out of 3 ingredients and it sucked, you wouldn't be like, it's not your fault you ran out of the ingredients. Like,
It's not your fault you got shot while you were trying to cook.
The intent of the meal was great, so I'm sure we can talk about it favorably. Like you made me a shitty meal, and I feel like this is that shitty meal, and everyone's just apologizing for it because it could have been great, and maybe it could have. Well, but like, God, it's not.
I think
it's so bad.
So I think that there's enough like redeeming things. I think there's some cool cinematography. They actually tried to take a stab at like not just being a vengeance story. It's supposed to be like based on love, which is kind of a cheesy writing twist that is helped. A little bit different.
The voiceover was pretty good too. I'm glad they did that constantly.
The music is pretty sweet all the way throughout.
The music is okay.
I think there's like enough interesting pieces to like make this entertaining.
I'm definitely going to defend the music on two levels.
Yeah, thank you.
I think the soundtrack is absolutely killer. And I think the composer, Graham Revell, is fantastic. I think that guy was probably tasked with like a very hard job. And I feel like I would like to know more about his process in this film, honestly, because I feel there's some music lilting notes and some more airiness to this because the looseness of how this was put together. I think there's basically some music tricks, and I don't mean that to diminish what this guy does, to really lend itself to this movie. And we could listen to other soundtracks, as I said. Like, this guy's really noted. He did The Craft. He did Ehud's next movie that we did, No Escape. He is the composer for that as well. So very, very different soundtracks. But this one, I thought a lot of care went into the soundtrack. For what this story is, I was like, this soundtrack fits. Actually, Lamar, I'm going to make a comparison. I think the soundtrack fits much like Akira's does. The score, that is. Not the soundtrack, the score is what I'm referencing.
Yeah, actually, that makes a lot of sense. It feels right, especially based off the year that it came out. All of the sound just fits right with 94.
Yeah.
We should get into this thing.
Well, it takes place with some hot dogs. As you think The Crow would start, it takes place with hot dogs.
She's a real hot dogger.
We're at Maxie's.
Genuine hot dogger, even.
So it's a year later. We see Sarah. And I do want to make some comparisons. There is no real character of Sarah in the graphic novel. It's a character named Sherry who's in it for a handful of pages. There is no real character drawing you through. There's no real connection. It's just kind of a side character, not emotionally connected to Shelley and Eric to this extent in this film. But she's there. In this film, it looked like Shelley, who's also now deceased, the year previous. It looked like Shelley was really close with her and really looked after her more like a mom. Now Sarah's on her own. She meets up with Ehud.
Do we know what his name is?
Albrecht.
Albrecht, okay.
Oh, wow, I had no idea, though.
I didn't Ehud, that's all you
I
can
did either.
Yeah, Sergeant Albrecht. And then he taken down some pegs later, just becomes a beat cop. But yeah, he's like, hey, I'm going to buy you some hot dogs. They apparently have some kind of bond ever since the tragic deaths of Eric Draven and Shelley Webster.
Everyone just feels bad for this kid because her mother's a fucking heroin addict.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't mind this thread, to be honest with you. Like, the narrations, the overdub, that, like, I don't need any of that. But, like, the thread of, like, there is this living component who, like, knew them. I also kind of like she specifically knew Shelley a little more than Eric. I don't know why. Like, that seems a little sweeter in my mind. So I don't really mind that there was this addition. Another addition is there is really no like cop component. There's a couple cops, and I guess I haven't read The Crow in ages, that, you know, Ernie Hudson is basically two cops put together throughout, but there's no real connection like this. That's all manufactured in this movie as well. But yeah, they're eating some hot dogs and reminiscing, and I guess they bond here and there and they check in. It's kind of sweet. I like it.
Yeah.
I like the Ehud.
Yeah.
He is the best character in this movie.
Yeah. Can't go wrong.
No.
We learned that onions make you fart big time.
Yeah. Sarah doesn't like onions.
Is that why?
Because they make you fart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you guys, is anyone here familiar with the comic book or the graphic novel Crow?
No.
Like outside of me?
Outside of you, Paul.
Okay.
I was like,
I just said it right.
yeah, I was like,
Paul's been talking about it quite a bit. No?
I was like, are you tricking me?
Well, I don't think I've ever read it. No. Have you?
No.
Regardless of anyone's feelings on this film, I definitely encourage, if people like graphic novels and they like this kind of content, they should absolutely check out the original graphic novel. I know there's been multiple stories since and blah, 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 but the original, that's one of the reasons I like that graphic novel is it is NC-17 every which way. It is profane, it is vulgar, it is in your face, it's awful, and it's extreme, but that's what it's supposed to be. I mean, that is the horror story where a guy comes back and he's like, I'm going to kill everyone. There are scenes where he's like pumping up on drugs just to get quicker and better revenges. Like I was reading this when I was young. I was like, oh my God, like this guy is willing to do anything to come back and kill everyone.
Can I ask you a legitimate question? Yeah. And this isn't me being a hater this time. So in the comic book, you mentioned that the ghost cowboy told him that he had.
No, that was something just for this movie that they. Cut.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. So in the comic book, does he not just have one night to do this?
I think he's got maybe one or two. I think that's like what the movie is too. You have got like the 30th and the 31st. Okay. And I think that's kind of on
like,
par.
Does the graphic novel take place in a constrained time frame? Like, is it clear that he has to like do revenge and then go back to his grave, or is it just like he's a vengeance machine and he can do whatever the fuck he wants?
I don't really remember. To be honest with you, I don't really remember. I think it's just kind of like he knows.
That's Spawn.
Well, like he comes back. He's like,
it's a lot of things.
Well, he comes back and he's like, I know who did this to me, and I know who did this to my fiance. So the story in the comic book is he's a mechanic, and he's driving with Shelley, and they are engaged, and their car breaks down, and he's trying to fix it, and this a-hole gang rolls up and brutalizes everyone. She's shot immediately. He's the one that goes to the hospital and is worked on for 30 hours. And I want to come back to that idea here in a second because I read something that I thought was actually kind of interesting. And then he dies on the operating table 30 hours into this, and then a year later comes back and just kind of knows like there is like a crow force, and it's not really talked about. There's
force.
Yeah, there's not like a narration. It's just like, there is the spirit of a crow. I acknowledge that this brought me back, and I am here to kill everyone right now. And
why did we elect to not go with that plot line?
Well, I agree, Mike.
Why? Yeah. Well, why do they change things?
That's what I'm saying. Like
for what purpose?
This NC-17 like really lays itself because like I know it comes off gothy and almost silly, like I'm going to paint my face, but like, dude, in the comic book, this guy is all in black, paints his face, bursts through a window, and is like ripping people in half, and you're like with his bare hands, then gets weapons.
That sounds cool. In the comic book, did he play guitar on top of a church in the rain crying?
No, he did not. Remember, he's a mechanic.
Okay,
it's not mentioned.
The omission of that scene probably would have helped.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that the Sarah character is not in the comic books at all, really. I feel like
But who explained the plot of the movie to people?
Exactly. She's a device to get a little sympathy and to explain some of the plot a little bit.
Yeah, they did the same thing in Neil Gaiman's Coraline. The dude.
The dude? The Big Lebowski?
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
The friend that shows up.
Yeah, like he's not in the novella whatsoever.
Oh yeah, like the male, the boy character.
Yeah. He's on the bicycle,
like
and stuff.
the surrogate for the audience in the movie, so you know what's going on.
So that's why I kind of don't really mind Sarah being in this.
No, I thought her character was fine. I wish she was a little bit better written. Yeah. But like her presence was fine. I don't like voiceovers in general, and hers sucked, but. Aside from that,
there wasn't much of it.
So there's also a lot of like
3 times.
Well, there's also a lot of like sometimes like, what are you gonna do in these situations? Like we gotta patch some of this up. That's why I'm like, I feel like even though I do like this film overall, I do go in more forgiving than Mike would be, just because I'm like, I don't know, like I do see the potential, but I mean, does it lack in the movie? Yeah, like you totally feel it, but I'm also like, people were pretty clear about the intent of the release, so I was like. Because they've been pretty open, I'm like, all right, like I guess I'm willing to roll with it, or maybe I expected it more. But yeah, I mean, so Eric's back. Eric Draven, Mike's favorite,
back again.
Guess who's back?
Crawls out of the grave.
Yeah. Well, we hear
very painfully.
Yeah, we get some dual scenes. We get this crew of a-holes driving around, listening to Stone Temple Pilots screaming, and we also get shirtless Eric coming from the grave screaming. I also want to note, because super popular, and I don't know, I think the main person in this room would be Lamar if he's ever read this. And because of the popularity of the new Spider-Man animated movies, which I love both of them and recommend them to everybody, Spider-Man 2099 has a very, very similar rip-off moment, which I found, where that character goes back to his apartment. He's been mutated. He's like a new Spider-Man, but like just like the Crow, he's like, oh, I had this... costume from Day of the Dead, I'm gonna put it on, and it's like a very Crow-like moment. Like he puts it on, he takes it from like out of the closet is like scene by scene. I was like, someone just saw The Crow. I feel no one really brings that up. But yeah, he's back. And then he's getting some flashbacks after he touches his cat Gabriel. Doesn't like that. We learn he has a power flashbacking.
Yeah, flashback indeed.
It comes in handy later.
Flashback.
Well, no, because we need to know what happened.
Yeah.
Because we need
I mean,
to
this
be
movie's
filled in.
super R. So he has
Yeah.
a flashback of his death and Shelley's death. Shelley was his fiancée. It is very, very clear, and trigger warnings, please note.
It's unnecessary.
It's Shelley is brutally raped and beaten, and Eric is beaten, then thrown out a window.
Yeah.
And it is...
He burst through the front door. Was like, "Hey guys, and they just shoot him right when he walks in the door.
Yeah.
And then throw him out the window.
Yeah.
And they didn't fix this place up in a whole year. That's like a $7,000 a month place in Denver.
I have questions about that as well.
Yeah.
I do. I have notes about this because like later on in the film, they're like, all right, we're going to burn the city down again. And I feel like they have been talking with the underpants nuns from South Park because they're like,
I totally agree.
Probably.
Step one,
Yeah.
business plan. Step one, burn city down. Step two, something. Step three, profits.
So Jeremy, this is my wild guess. Going back to, I totally agree with you. Like, I was watching this movie, I was like, wow, how are you making money? Like, I know on drugs and stuff, but like, why? Like, this land owning, like, how are you doing this? This is my wild guess.
They've left this apartment, which they're like, we got to kick these people out so that we can do something with it. And then a year later, like,
there's
fucking
nothing.
cat's
It's still
there.
the
It's not living in
cat
fucking
Gabriel
apartment.
is making himself at
a
home.
year
the cat
later-
has squatters' rights. They can't get rid of
Remember,
it.
this was multiple tenants. So there's like multiple people. Remember, even Ernie Hudson later's like, these people wouldn't come forward after, what happened to you guys.
Yeah.
So now the whole apartment complex is shut down. So my thought is, does Top Dollar, is he pulling like insurance fraud? He's like burning things down and making side deals, getting money there, and he's like, oh, I own this property. Sure, I'll turn it into apartments if you pay me.
Worst insurance company ever.
Like,
I don't think
we
he
don't
has
have
a
an
plan.
investigative team.
I thought
we
it was
just
a-
take people's word.
I assumed it was like a rent control thing. Like, he needs to get people out of these rent control apartments, so he like burns them down to make them unlivable.
Sure.
Kicks them
Right.
out to,
But this is like,
But they've been doing this for years.
Right.
yeah.
There's all these people that need to get kicked out of shitty apartments.
I don't think Top Dollar is the mastermind of this at all.
Top
but
Dollar
yeah.
is drinking like eyeball wine in his loft with fucking Bylane,
Yeah.
digging around all day.
Which is-
I don't think he has a plan.
Which is the reason why the plan really doesn't make sense
Yeah.
from his perspective.
He's not an idea.
He's following orders and having fun.
Yeah.
Well, we see the crew that took down Eric and Shelley back at a bar. It's one of the central locations. I feel if I really had to like make guesses, like off the top of my head, what were the central locations in this movie? You get Eric's apartment, you get the bar,
Maximum hot dog or whatever.
the hot dog stand, and then you get the cement factory / which is like Top Dollar's lair / like a nightclub.
pit.
Rave.
Yeah,
Rave
Yeah,
place.
You covered it.
they had
Yeah.
both kind of cigarettes there.
So I assume they're pretty much there, like hanging at this bar, which is part of Top Dollar's
And they're
lair.
shooting bullets, like not
Yeah.
shooting bullets, but actually taking shots with bullets.
That's got to
and
be bad
swallowing
for
bullets.
That's not good for the
That's the
digestive
Surgeon
system.
General.
I'm not a
has warned
doctor,
against this.
but I'm not the Crow. But yeah, this soundtrack I'll kind of note throughout. Not the biggest of names. I noted Stone Temple Pilots earlier. They're all listening to For Love, Not Lisa, a notable band.
Not the biggest of names. We have Stone Temple Pilots, Nine Inch Nails.
Well, no.
For Love, Not Lisa.
No, that's what I'm
Island
saying.
Friends.
That's what I'm saying. We'll get there. But like, this is a notable band. But like, some of these other bands are going to be a lot more notable. Starting with Stone Temple Pilots. But yeah, they're at this bar. They're drinking bullets. They're firing it up, man. Fire it up.
Fire it up.
One of my notes is fire it up. Yeah. Because they say
Oh,
that.
I
'cause-
didn't make that note.
Well,
yeah. Okay.
so they're gonna fire it up, which means they just get drunk and do a bunch of drugs, go drive around and cause mayhem. Now
That's what I was doing.
now that Eric is in full Crow gear, which is basically just leather pants, a black spandex T-shirt, and makeup.
So
The J.C. Penney brooding line.
yeah,
Is your tyke brooding?
was
JCPenney.
that what he was buried in?
No.
Where did he get it?
No, he was in a tux.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah. He
Oh, that's right. He ripped off his funeral tuxedo.
Yeah, he also had like a costume, which I'm guessing is part of this like Halloween.
This movie would have been
costume,
so fucking better if he just
was in a
slaughtered
tuxedo.
everybody in a fucking tuxedo.
Instead, he has to do like Edward Scissorhands cosplay, and
but
fucking electric.
that's why I noted Spider-Man 2099. They also like that dude had like a costume in the same kind of thing. He's like, oh, I remember Halloween. I was like, oh man, this is exactly the Crow. That's super weird.
It's a good thing the mask he had in his apartment was menacing and not like, I don't know, like a clown mask.
Sure.
It's a Chucky mask.
Yeah.
Renaissance festival mask.
Right, yeah.
Well, we get kind of a training montage. We now know that Eric has this ability to kind of absorb memories, to retain them. We don't really know much about that. We know he's back from the dead. We don't really know if he has superpowers. So he goes, runs on some rooftops, kind of works out the kinks. He's listening to The Cure. So we get that kind of montage. The Crow's, flying around. Another thing I don't remember. I don't think there was no real connection to like the Crow, like a crow in the comic book. Like there was a crow, but there wasn't like feeding him powers like this. I don't really mind that he has crow vision. Like the crow like flies around and kind of like telepathically beams in. Like I see that. Like if that was the one kind of power, I'm kind of down with it. Like I could just be the bird in the sky. If you want to see like some more stuff, I could tell you. I'm kind of down with
it's
that.
like his Damon from fucking Golden Compass.
Yeah.
It's classic familiar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it would be real bad if they were like talking to each other.
Oh yeah, that'd be bad.
Hey, Eric.
Yeah, I mean that does happen in Neil Gaiman's The Sandman, but there's a lot more whimsy in The Sandman.
Oh, Patton Oswalt makes a good crow.
Oh yeah, and if you're watching the Netflix version, you got Patton Oswalt, so it makes it fun. But yeah, in this movie's super rated R. Again, should have been NC-17. Now we got character Tintin. We're gonna meet Tintin again real soon.
Is Tintin Lord Nikon?
In the world, in the world of Rabbit Troop Sucks, we will see him again soon. He's at Gideon's pawn shop, and this guy's clearly a piece of shit. He's killing people, he's robbing people, he's selling all the goods. He makes a quick $50 and goes outside. One montage ends with Eric, and another begins, where we now get a Joy Division cover by 9 Inch Nails, and fading from The Cure to that, we get a rooftop scene where the Crow sees, like, hey, there's Tintin. That's one of the guys that brutalized
my wife.
Right, and the Crow or Eric just immediately goes right to this guy. Mike, I know you don't like this film, but I'm gonna ask like a serious. No, I'm gonna ask you a serious.
No, I can be objective. I can have a serious conversation.
Do you like some of the fight scenes? Like if I condense
the fight scenes are terrible.
Come on.
None of them?
Did they not invent fight choreography prior to this movie?
Oh, come on.
Brendan Lee's dad is a
I don't
badass.
think they had fight choreography. I think that was still being developed in like the Asian countries.
Because I like some of the
Bruce
fight
Lee
scenes.
figured it out.
Well, I like some of these fight scenes, and this one I like a lot. Like Eric basically just comes down from a rooftop and starts antagonizing Tintin, and he's like, "Oh man, I'm gonna mess you up," and oh my god, like the way Eric just rushes through like a trash can fire. Do you guys like remember the scene?
Yeah.
He just runs up. Yeah. Like I was like, holy shit, dude! Like
knives
this dude,
he's throwing.
Well, like the rush up into Tintin's face.
I got two reasons.
I was like, man, like that would be so disarming. Well, like that dude's like,
yeah, in real life it would be very disarming.
Especially this dude's painted up like a psycho.
But I mean, Tintin's like a street dude. He thinks he's just some meth head. This is a Wednesday night for him.
Yeah.
Right. Well, how about this? I think he's a meth. I think he takes that approach.
Here we go,
he's a meth head from 20 feet away. But then when he's like immediately like 2 feet in front of his face, I think even Tintin's like, oh shit, like this guy got real. And I do think Tintin's like, I'm now gonna stab the hell out of him.
That was his plan.
But the I have a painted up face. It's the dark, and I just jumped at you like woof.
I did like how it escalated. I mean, they didn't waste a lot of time in exposition with talk. It's just like, oh, I see you. I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, I like. That's the thing. That's why I asked Mike. Like Lamar, I agree. I like the immediacy of it all. It's not like drawn out. It's like I'm taking out knives. Yeah, taking out knives. Tintin, you kind of suck. I could take a couple blows with the knife because I could regenerate, and I'm going to stab you to death at the end.
Okay, I have another serious question because I don't know the answer to this. Was Brendan Lee a martial artist?
I think he
Partially,
knew a
or
little
like,
bit.
yeah,
Okay.
that's what I think too.
Yeah.
I feel
feel like if
he
you're
wasn't,
Bruce
that
Lee's
would
son,
be
you're
Right,
like a martial
just
arts.
there.
Oh, there was something in the trivia where it's like he does some specific kick where someone's like, that is like what Bruce Lee did, and someone was like speculating that was like an homage to his dad, like one specific thing. Oh, I want to go back
Also,
to one thing.
how many knives does Tintin
he says he's
carry?
got two.
Well, he had a bonus third
All
knife.
of
He
them.
did have a, yeah.
His crow power is he regenerates knives.
Yeah.
He had like 10 knives and
Oh,
stuff.
I
No,
did.
you're talking about a guy with 2 knives.
I did read something about some speculation. Remember, I told you, and I forgot to circle back to this, that so in the movie, Shelley is the one. So Eric's thrown out a window and dead, and Shelley goes to the hospital and is worked on for 30 hours and then eventually and unfortunately dies. But in the comic, it's Eric who does this. And there was speculation, and I thought this was interesting, that it was the 30 hours that he had left in his like real life. This was like his revenge fantasy as he's like in and out of like him about to die. And this is more of a story of like a guy on an operating table.
Oh, that's actually kind of cool.
I know, right? And I was
Yeah.
like, all right.
So
like,
so many good ideas in the comic book that they just fucked up.
yeah, like the translation. Yeah, I know. And I read that and I was like, that's super interesting. Yeah, well, Tintin's
Mike's
super
like, they should have made this comic book into a movie.
What happened there?
Have you guys
That sounds like
heard
a
of
pretty
this
cool comic book.
Well, I feel you feel the vibes of it, like in this, like reading the graphic novel and getting it. You see, like what could have been. You know, a lot of times this is noted as like a horror film, and the way Eric approaches things, I like. Like in the comic, I totally agree. It's like a horror comic because you're like, oh my god, you're an anti-hero because you're a psycho killing people, and you're like, hell yeah, these people brutalized you and your fiance. But again, not for kids, super NC-17, but. Yeah, I mean that's more the story I think they should have tried to tell in all of this. But yeah, then we get to back to the nightclub. I don't know what Eric's doing. He's having some flashbacks.
Yeah, he's dicking around somewhere.
I think it's flashbacks because he touches Tintin before death. Then we're back at the nightclub. We get a live performance from the band Medicine playing Time Baby 3. Top Dollar is sitting in his room.
He's got a chalice with an eyeball in it.
Yeah, it's
Well, he yanked that eyeball out of some hooker's head.
Yeah, you see some
Where
lady.
do you get your eyeball?
You see some lady's ass because she's dead on her side in the bed.
That's right, yeah.
And then his quote unquote sister, Micah, is showering. And then, they're talking about some eyeballs and stuff like that. And then you're like, wow, these are a bunch of weirdos doing weird stuff. And they're into some super unexplained, weird supernatural stuff as well. A lot of eye talk that you're going to get all throughout the movie. Everyone's soul's with an eye, and you got the crow's eye. And
Paul, the eyes are the groin of the face.
I gotta do something to the eyes.
In the scene, he's like the eyeball sitting in a mist of like I don't know, like
And he like he's breathing
he's
in.
breathing it in, and then it takes like a coke nail chaser
If
afterwards.
someone gives you eye and you don't breathe it in, you're rude.
It's just it's impolite. It would be rude not to.
Yeah.
Michael
I'm
really
assuming
does.
none of you guys have smoked eyeball yet.
Oh,
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not this year.
No.
I gotta get out of a gold chalice if I do.
Maybe we don't know what we're missing.
Yeah, that's true.
could.
But Michael really does highlight the point of if you're going to be a supervillain, you really do need to have a right hand shaman or something.
Oh,
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously.
Absolutely.
That's the way
Yeah.
I would go.
Duh.
Just throwing it out there.
That writes itself.
Another hit band. Cut to Jesus and the Jesus and Mary
Yeah.
Chain. Real notable song. Real notable band. Sarah goes home. She's just kind of hanging out. Darla, is this when Darla's like, you gotta get out of here? Oh yeah, no, she goes to check on Darla, and Darla's at work. And Darla's like, here's a bunch of money, like, go get some food.
Go to Maximum Wiener or whatever that place
And
is.
she's like, I already ate. And Darla's making out with Fun Boy, who's one of this shitbag crew. And Darla is Sarah's mom. And she's like, get some food. She's like, I already got food from a police
Mom.
officer. And Fun Boy's like, I'm a police officer.
Fun Boy's not very fun.
No, he's kind of a pup.
Since Eric obtained some memories from Tintin, he had a memory of giving Shelley an engagement ring and where that ring was stolen and where it went to. And we saw Tintin last before his death. selling all those stolen goods. So Eric goes to pay a little visit to Gideon's pawn shop.
I love the pawn shop owner.
What is it, Seinfeld's
He's the
landlord or
best.
something?
Yeah, from Seinfeld.
He's good.
Yeah.
He's great.
No, he is good. Yeah.
What's crazy? He looks the same in the graphic novel, and this the graphic novel came out I don't know, in the 80s, and this came out in the 90s. So I was like, this guy was made.
They're like, fuck yeah.
Yes, this guy came out
They're
the
like, what
casting
should
role.
we keep from the graphic novel? The pawn shop.
Well, this guy just came in. They're like, did you just materialize from the comic itself? He's like, yes. They're like, well, you're hired.
Good.
Well, Eric wrecks shop. He finds the ring and basically tells Gideon you pay people to commit crimes and you profit off this, and this is one of the reasons I'm dead and my wife is dead, or my soon-to-be wife is dead. And so he really beats the hell out of him and then explodes the shop. He leaves the shop with some guns, a guitar.
You got to play something in the rain while you're crying.
Or a ring.
I would also like to note the explosion that happens on the pawn shop, and whatever the fucking stuntman was that was standing in front of that explosion.
Yeah.
He got that, man.
Oh,
He
yeah.
did, in a fake move or choreographed.
Probably
that guy got burnt up.
That stuntman was probably wearing a long fire retardant hairpiece that just looked long, and the whole back of him probably was covered head to toe in fireproof materials.
Hyrogel or whatever.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, that explosion was huge.
So he couldn't have been that good of a pawn shop owner if in a whole fucking year he hadn't have sold that goddamn ring.
Right.
Yeah.
No one wanted that damn ring.
No one wanted any of them. He's like, all these rings are people that got killed by Fun Boy or whatever. He's like,
Detroit was run by mysterious business practices back then.
Well, I feel like he bought a lot of stuff. No one was shopping in that pawn shop.
No.
I wonder if he had maybe a couple year rotation to get it off the radar.
Well, I mean,
That's giving him way too
you
much
do
credit,
have to
but-
hold on to something for an X amount of time before you can resell it. But I feel like, I don't know. It's like that pawn shop that was by Sam's downtown that closed.
Oh my God, oh my God. So yes, Mike and I love Sam's number 3. There are a couple locations. Come to Colorado, and one of those locations is on Curtis Street. And there used to be, again, Sam's is awesome, and sometimes we'd have to wait, so we just kind of walk around. And it'd be like, hey, in 20 minutes, we'll serve you, or 10 or whatever. And there's a pawn shop next door. And I remember there was a guitar up front. I play guitar. I walked in. And the guy was so alarmed that Mike and I were in the
anyone would bother to come
This guy
to the
came
store.
running out, on a cell phone. He's like, why are you here? What are you doing? And I was like...
But in a Russian accent.
Yeah, and I was like, I saw you had guitars. Do you have any more? He's like...
No guitar.
Well, no. He goes, I have all the guitars.
Oh.
And I was like,
many guitars.
Yeah.
Then he's like, we have the one in the window. I was like, okay, anything else? He's like, this other one. It was a children's guitar. I was like, I'm good. And then the only other thing that they were selling was an oversized stuffed animal that you would get at a carnival. And I was like,
You walked into a money laundering operation.
I'm sure we walked into a lot of stuff.
That's what it was.
Sure, lucky to still be alive.
Yeah, I'm sure we walked into a lot of stuff. And
that doesn't exist anymore.
I was going to say.
I was just trying to-
still there.
I was just trying to get a dope breakfast burrito. And I did.
We did eventually.
Yeah. Well, back to the crowing.
Anyway, yeah. So he's dead.
So music cut. I do want to make note of this specific song, "Violent Femmes," and the Violent Femmes come in with a super dark song. And I want to highlight Emily and I saw this song played live. Me, my wife, Emily, our friend Rami, we went to the Echo and the Bunnymen and a joint Violent Femmes show.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome. And the Violent Femmes played this song as their closer. And they even noted, we normally don't play this song a lot. And it was awesome. So I like the Violent Femmes for a lot of different reasons. This song, it sounds like them, but just the darkness. This is a band that I feel really embraced the vibe of the soundtrack. You're kind of a quirky band and maybe have an upswing sometimes, but this is a real dark movie. And they're like, okay, we'll just write a darker song. I was like, okay.
Wait, was
What
it
was
written for this?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
What was the song?
Is I think Color Me
Color
Once.
Me Once.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's on anything else. I think this was...
Yeah.
I cannot remember. But again, a lot of these other bands are just darker by nature, and I wouldn't count the Violent Femmes as a darker band.
Nah.
Yeah. Some of your songs have a xylophone.
I mean, thematically it's not dark, but lyrically the Violent Femmes are super dark.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
That's fair.
I mean, it's hard to sound sad when you have a xylophone happening, but like if you listen to the lyrics, like it's all pretty kind of a bummer.
Tonally, in comparison to the rest of the soundtrack, it's lighter than Nice.
Well, we don't. Yeah. Welcome to the
Violent
Femmes podcast.
Eric runs into Albrecht on the street, and he's like, "Hey, dude, I gotta detain you." And I kind of like that Brandon Lee's like weirdly mouthing off. He's like, "That dude's dead." Ha. He's like making weird jokes about it. Which also would make more sense going back to the graphic novel, which I think is, again, makes this very extreme. This dude's like hopped up on like every kind of drug. Like he kills these drug people, but he's like, I know I'm going back to the grave. I'm going to use everything to make me more psychotic to kill people. So like if he's making these weird jokes and he's all hopped up on drugs, totally get it. But a little out of context, I'm like, why are you mouthing off to this guy? Just a random cop, like in his mind. But he's like, yeah, like, I'm going to have to detain you. He also says things like, you know, these people are dead and they're all part of the gang. He's like, yeah, they're all dead. They just don't know it yet, which is my opening line to everyone now.
They're all dead. They don't know it yet, and they will come back from you from beyond the grave.
My name is John Calabasas.
Oh, John Calabasas.
Yeah, we're back at Top Dollars doing kind of nothing. Gideon shows up. He's like, you are a bunch of jokers. Like, you can't really protect me. He's mouthing off a lot, complaining that his place was burnt down. He's eventually stabbed in the throat after a long-winded speech. Top Dollar doesn't like that.
That's how it happens.
Yeah, he just gets a sword and stabs him in the throat. Eric highlights Collin's favorite line, "Can't rain all the time." Is this when he sees Sarah? True. Am I going in order? Yeah. Sarah leaves the house. She goes over and Darla's like, "Get the hell out of here! I'm making out with my boyfriend." So Sarah leaves and she's like really pissed off. And she has a skateboard. It's raining. She goes out in the middle of traffic. Eric shows up really quickly, grabs her back as a cab, goes really fast, and kind of pulls off to the side. I don't know if he knew it was Sarah. It just might be happenstance, not really explained. Because when he touches her, he gets sweeter memories, which kind of makes him sad all at once. And she's like, oh my God, like that asshole wouldn't stop, and I can't believe this rain. And he's like, well, can't rain all the time. And she remembers that's one of the lyrics that he had in one of his songs, and she turns around and he's gone.
What was his band's name?
Hanging Joke.
Hangman's
Joke.
Not a
cool
bad name. Yeah.
Is it?
You say that sarcastically. I think it's fine. Yeah, it's the mid-90s.
I was totally going to agree with Collin. I was like, oh my God, for the mid-90s, totally. Also, like or dislike the name, I love the artwork on the album. Yeah. That like crazy like skeleton on the front. Like that I loved.
Yeah, it was like a Louisiana tombstone kind of.
Yeah, so she's like, wait a minute, I remember this song. And he was in a rock band, and she's like, and he disappears. Another music cut, Machines of Loving Grace, also kind of notable industrial band around this time. That's playing as we get a little trip into Darla's house. She's making out with Fun Boy. They're both super duper high. The Crow comes in. He's saying some weird riddles and jokes and stuff about, Jesus Christ, giving him, went to the innkeeper, and Jesus Christ said, give me 3 nails. Can you put me up for the night? As he's getting shot up by Fun Boy, who is high out of his head, and then accidentally shoots himself as Eric kind of slaps him around a little bit.
I like how he's very concerned about his sheets getting dirty when he lives in the shittiest
he's like, look what you did to my sheets, as he's like gushing blood out from a bullet wound. This also was a very notable moment for me in the graphic novel. It was like the one area, like, and as dark as this is, it was like the one shred of empathy that I felt the Crow had for any of these characters. He does a read in the graphic novel on Fun Boy's head, and he realizes like this dude has also been like abused and brutalized his whole life, and that's kind of what made him this piece of shit. And he makes him this weird deal. He's like, I'm going to walk out of here and kill you. Like, no matter what, you're gonna die in like 5 minutes. But if you tell me where all of your piece of shit gang members are, I'll do things differently. And he agrees and gives him just a heavy drug overdose and just like walks out. and then goes and rips everyone to shreds. I was like, woof. In this, he does kind of the same, gives him a drug overdose, finds out a little bit. He cures Darla of the heroin that she's been using. Not to get super gothy, but I'm going to use the line he uses. So he kind of twists Darla's arm and he says these lines. He goes, "Mother is the name for God on the lips and hearts of all children. Do you understand what I'm saying?" And I say that because Mike and I were at the Larimer Lounge once, and some hobo approached me and kept saying weird rhetoric about mothers and various other things. And I said those exact lines to him. And that guy scampered off like I was a priest warding off a vampire. He's like, "I don't know about all that." Like,
he probably saw the crow and he didn't want you to take his heroin away.
I was just joking around, but it was like such nonsense. I was like, I gotta shut this guy down.
You're joking around, but you definitely warded off a vampire that night.
Sometimes you just gotta crow some people in your life, get them out of there.
You got him.
Well, Darla's kind of weirdly cured. She's like shock woke, and she scampers off, and she's kind of done with the whole business. Fun Boy is, I presumably gave up where everyone is. He is overdosed on the floor. There's like 50 needles in his chest. We also get the right-hand man Grange, who's downstairs at the bar, kind of comes upstairs, like, what's going on?
Is this Candyman?
It is the Candyman.
What's his name?
Candyman?
Candyman.
No, like
the
actor's name.
Real person.
It's like Todd.
Tony
Todd. Yeah, okay.
Last name Man.
Tony Todd. Yeah, and Crow kind of winks at him and vanishes off into the night.
Throws a little kiss.
Yeah. and so he's off into the night. That's all you really got.
Yeah.
He's going. Eric is going over to Ehud's apartment again to have a chat with him.
Yeah, Ehud's wearing a police officer's hat and tidy whities
and his undies, as one does.
I do like how he hangs out on his day off.
Yeah, we get a little backstory. So Eric gets into the apartment and opens the refrigerator and opens a beer and hands it over to Ehud, and he's like, "Dude, like, why didn't you help me after my death?" And he's like, "Dude, I did. And I kept, investigating, and they basically demoted me. And I asked too many questions, and this is the shit life I live because of this situation." He's like, "But what about the tenant eviction?" And he's like, "Dude, do you think anyone was going to talk after you and your fiance were murdered? Like, you were thrown out a window, dude. I was demoted, and that's where we're at." He's like, "That totally sucks." And Eric reads Ernie Hudson's mind, and he's like, "You were with my wife Shelly for 30 hours," and he's like, "I just needed like a witness." But you could tell that like Ernie Hudson's the nicest dude, which brings me back to something I said when we were watching this film. So Ernie Hudson's like detective superior, kind of, because he mentions there's a captain involved, so they all have another boss, but I guess his like pseudo superior, like his, I guess, manager, which is this other detective. He's a total shitbag the whole time.
Yeah, he is.
And in all seriousness, when we're watching this movie, I was like, what really frustrates me is I can't imagine being aggressive to Ernie Hudson in real life at any point in time. I'm like, you're a jerk. Like Ernie Hudson is like
a jerk.
Yeah, the calmest.
The detective is like, "Ernie, why do you keep investigating crimes?
Right.
What the fuck?
What is your problem,
Get
sir?"
fired, man.
Yeah.
Ernie's done nothing
happens to him.
in this movie to just incite any aggression from this guy. He's just aggressive for no reason. Wants answers to no question, and has absolutely no idea what's going on. Actually, I think he's just trying to set him up.
Yeah.
And it looks like you can like grate cheese on his face. This guy.
I thought that at some point in time, the first time I saw this, that we were going to find out like that detective was like working for
I wouldn't be
He
surprised.
has
top
to
dollar,
have been, right?
but
He
that
had to
never
have
came
been.
to fruition.
Well, I mean,
it's just a 2 hour
That would be
movie.
cool.
yeah, I mean, there are allusions again. Remember, Ernie Hudson's like, "I asked too many questions, and this is like what came of it." And this guy is like
I
a clear
knew too much.
Yeah, this guy's a clear reminder. Like, shut your mouth. He says like when Tintin dies, he's like, "You're a beat cop. Just like do beat cop stuff," which means like report it and shut up. Like that's, I'm like, oh my god. Like, and I guess he was like a Gold Shield, like really well thought of cop. Yeah. So this is kind of super messed up. Now we're getting part 1 of 2, which Mike likes. A little brief intro that in Eric's spare time does a little jam session on the rooftop. A little bit. We're going to get a bigger one later, but a little.
Well, he's been running around with a guitar for the past half an hour for no fucking reson, so he might as well play it.
Yeah, he's got to play a little bit. So now
he's not very good at guitar either. It's worth pointing out.
He died.
So he didn't get sweet.
His fingers are rotten.
Tasty lick power.
Have you stopped playing for a year and then gone back and seen how?
Oh yeah, no, it's
like
totally
why don't you die for a year and see how that bass is?
Let us know how it is.
I'd get fired from my band.
That's the wrong hill to die on, man.
Yeah,
we're all Team Draven on this one.
Not.
So we get two kind of quick cuts. Sarah goes home and immediately you could just tell, like, she's like, I'm going to listen to music. And you're like, why? She pulls out that Hangman's Joke record and immediately puts it on. Clearly to the song that she wanted to hear. So she's looking out the window and then the record starts to skip on that line. Can't rain all the time. Comes from one of the songs on that album. And she's like, this is all super weird. Now we see T-Bird and Skank. Two more shitbags. And that's all we really got of the core lower level group that is. T-Bird is like telling Skank, he's like basically going to the convenience store. He's like, smokes and road beers, make it quick. And Skank goes in. Skank is so well cast.
Oh, yeah.
Skank is like, Skank's name totally fits. And he looks like he needs a shower. And this dude is so high on so many drugs. He's incoherent at times. Even Top Dollar later is laughing. He's like, we should have videotaped this. Because he's like an incoherent mess. And T-Bird, I like T-Bird. T-Bird, I don't like T-Bird as like who he is, but like
the best thing about T-Bird is his haircut. I think we can all agree on that.
Like you could just feel like he's a psycho. Like this guy is well cast. Like this guy is reciting rhetoric from Paradise Lost. He's just a weirdo. You could see it in his eyes. You could hear it in the cadence of his voice. Like there's no remorse. The way he talks about death and people. Like he is a crazy person. Clearly fueled off drugs, constant alcohol. Well, Eric's in the car. He's like, I'm your passenger. Drive. And they do real fast. They're going like over 100 miles an hour. Eric is inquiring about why they were brutalized. This guy's super flippant and direct. He's calling Shelly a bitch repeatedly. This is just driving Eric up the wall. The end result of all of this is this car basically goes over a bridge. It has explosives, or not a bridge, like a little ramp. It has explosives. With T-Bird strapped to the seat, Eric bails. The car explodes. He's dead. And then he lights the crow insignia with some gasoline. And I do want to note, yes, maybe this does not stand the test of time, but so many other movies rip this off, and this includes one of the Batman films.
Yeah, and it sucked then, too.
I agree. I totally agree. That
I also feel like they needed more lighter fluid to produce than what that little bottle had in it.
Yeah.
He was an artist.
It was cheesy, but I liked it.
I also did this in my driveway when I was young after seeing this movie. I tried to do like the crow in my driveway with like and it did not produce.
It did not go well.
Yeah, no, it never does.
Or are you trying to pour the gasoline on your driveway like this looks like a crow? Trying to with a little gas tank. You lit it and it looked like a cat sad. Or something.
So my mom's like yelling out the bathroom window, "What the fuck are you doing out there?"
When you lit it or when you're pouring a gasoline?
Like it was on fire. Yeah, our driveway was on fire for a little while.
I actually wish we had a little more.
And then I blamed it on Paul.
That's fair.
Probably
the right thing to do.
I wish they had more of this character. I really feel you could see why this was the leader of this core group of thugs, but why he reported to someone else. But really, again, like even through flashbacks, this dude, I don't know.
You skink?
No, T-Bird.
Oh,
T-Bird. He was interesting to me. I'm like, you're a lunatic, like straight up. But he's gone.
Yeah, ain't no coming back.
Yeah.
Do you still have the soundbite on that?
Well, that's just
there's no
listeners.
Coming back.
That's
there's
not my
no
catchphrase. That's what he screamed 8,300 times.
There's no coming back.
Yeah.
There's no coming back.
There's no coming back.
Well, I kind of like it.
He wasn't getting.
Well, he wasn't.
He didn't.
He didn't get up from that. But yeah, I kind of also like it because I mean, T-Bird, like his last words. Although he's like, there's no coming back. There's no coming back. Like, you're like, this dude is totally drugged out, brain broke. Yeah. Like, this dude's brain just melted. Like, because he now knows this is the guy I threw out a window. Holy shit. And I'm on so many drugs. My brain is literally just nothingness.
Yeah.
So his brain ain't coming back from that.
No.
It was not coming.
Yeah. Well, Skank, in an interesting move, he walked out of the convenience store and he's like, oh my God, T-Bird's driving off. Didn't know Eric was in the back. He runs out, gets hit by a car. The guy comes out, beats the shit out of Skank for a moment, calls him
a stupid ass head.
Ass hair. He goes,
oh, was it ass hair?
He's like, stupid ass hair.
He did have stupid ass hair.
But somehow Skank gets the upper hand, knocks out the guy, and takes his car. I'm like, whoa, didn't see this coming. And he's in this little box car. He's like, stupid foreign cars.
It was a Yugo for all you listeners
was
who
it?
care. Yeah.
And then
he's right to say it then.
he T-bones a cop car that's chasing all of them. And now Eric is set free. Skank runs off to Top Dollar to complain about all this. All my crew is dead. This guy is so incoherent at this point in time. Yeah, and then we get another scene. Darla is now, quoteth Sarah, Mom of the Year. She's making scramby eggs.
She's making some scramby eggs.
She's not scrambling. She's not scrambling anything.
Well,
does she want them over easier?
Collin, in the movie world, they're all scramby eggs. Yeah, Sarah's like, oh, whatever, and I don't like eggs. And then, Darla's about to throw it away. And then she's like, no, I do like eggs. And then they make up.
I like, when she was about to toss them, I audibly gasped.
Yeah, Collin booed. Collin booed. Audibly booed. Collin's like, you're throwing those eggs away? Monster. There's another monster in this movie, and it's you. But they kind of make up. There's a kind of a reconnection, I guess. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't really feel this.
And we never see him again.
That was that.
Side note, Fun Boy was supposed to be played by Iggy Pop. Iggy Pop is in the sequel to this movie. Iggy Pop.
Gross.
Iggy Pop should not have been in the sequel, nor should that sequel have been made.
Yeah.
I mean, his name's Iggy Pop. He doesn't make great decisions.
He was on tour. There was touring conflicts. Iggy Pop is one of the fathers in The Adventures of Pete and Pete. Iggy Pop is awesome. Yeah, so Sarah's now, I guess, a little happy, and she goes to, visit Eric and Shelley's place. This is clearly a piecemealed, put together note. This is difficult, and I know Mike had an audible gasp here, not about the scramby eggs, but of what happens. So Sarah gets into this broken down building, and it's like, okay, hey, Eric, I know it's you, can't rain all the time. It's one of your lyrics, right? And then she's going through and she's seeing things and clearly kind of sees someone has been there, maybe more recently. And she's like, I thought you were my friend.
How could you tell?
Yeah, I thought you were my friend. I'm just going to leave. And then you see the silhouette of Eric in this broken window, and it comes through. And that was Mike's audible gasp of this is terrible.
That's so stupid.
But the problem is, and yes, I don't disagree.
Yeah, this scene was done after he passed away.
It's just so
quite clearly, yeah.
Yeah, it's just rough. And I don't know. Something's needed to bridge this gap because later there's a final goodbye of sorts, or there's an attempted one. It's just, this comes off rough, and you could just tell this isn't what they wanted, but they also didn't want a stunt double, and I totally get that. So this is just an area I'm this is just rough. But again, I feel everyone's really up front. We know, we did it. Here it is. It wasn't finished. And I'm yeah. Can't rain all the time.
Perfect. It might, though.
Yeah. Well, so yeah. So with this, we get some rooftop scenes going right to the guitar. Eric's playing this guitar and then smashes everything. He remembers, I think, the sweetness of Sarah. He remembers why he's here. And he's now I'm going to, Top Dollar's hideout. I'm going to kill Skank.
I'm going to kill everyone.
Satan is good. Satan is our pal. Which maybe I think should make an appearance this summer.
I'm 100% for that, yeah.
I have a plan for that. Remind me.
Okay,
yeah. Keep talking, Mike, because I'm going to write something down.
Yeah. So we have, it was easy for him to get the information for where everyone else was because they're all in the same fucking room. They're
there all the time.
Yeah, they're in the industrial
Don't leave.
goth factory concert
Oh,
venue.
I read-
This is
I
the
read-
pit, is it not?
Yeah, I read
The pit.
trivia
Like, the
that
pit
this
has
is-
many levels.
Oh,
I believe.
yeah.
I read trivia that this is a cement factory in North Carolina and is the same layer used in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Go back and listen to our former episode.
There you
go.
go. Nice.
You'll learn about
Yeah.
almost the origins of father figures.
Somebody's going to get a trivia question right, like
Oh, yeah.
at some point in time with that
I-
little tidbit of information.
Here's another scene that I'm super down with. So, Top Dollar and his crew are there, and he's giving this speech. He's like, "It's Devil's Night. I don't want to do it." And people are like, "What?" He's like, "Well, I don't want to do it. Like we have been doing it. Burn everything down, not just like a little bit. Burn it all down. We rebuild." And everyone's like, "Yeah, great idea." Which goes again to Jeremy's idea. What shit idea
Yeah.
is this?
Keeping Detroit's property values down benefits
Right,
us.
how are you making money off this? This has never been fully explained.
I mean, it's drugs.
I think at this point he was like, it's not about money anymore. It's about having fun.
I think that's why I think
He
he's
did
being-
eventually
Just a
say
pyro.
that, like it's
Yeah.
about chaos and like
He's-
this and that,
yeah.
but like at the same
Somebody
time,
wants
I
to
don't know.
burn
It just
Like
the whole
he's living
the
the
whole
dream.
presence of these bad guys doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
like
no.
what are they doing?
Which is why I think they're pawns of a bigger game that
Top Dollar's
was
actually
never
like a
explained.
5th grade teacher. This is just his hobby.
Nice.
Yeah, he's like he's done good enough. Like he has his
He's got a killer
shaman.
set of
He's
boots.
smoking eyeballs.
Right.
He can just burn Detroit down. Who gives a shit?
He's
Oh,
smoking.
when you're smoking eyeballs, you've reached a whole new tier of success. That's
Yeah.
the tier you need to reach.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go spark up a retina after
Like,
this.
oh, you have Elon Musk money? I smoke eyeballs, a-hole.
Do you have a shaman?
Do you
I
think tenant disputes matter one iota to someone who smokes eyeballs? Nah.
No.
Well, this is where Eric comes in. You get another real-life performance. My Life with the Thrill Co. Cult is playing in the club, and you kind of hear this interspersed with what's about to happen. So Eric comes in, and he's like, "I want Skank." And Top Dollar's like, "Well, you can't have him." And this is another part of the trivia that I read, because it's supposed to be when Eric kills Skank, that's it. Even though Top Dollar's like doing this weird shit and he's a gang leader, it's all about just killing Skank right now. And that's why things were cut out, but it was supposed to be, this is the plan. You can't go against that revenge plan. That's why Eric's like, I just want him. And so when they put up that wall against him, from my understanding, like the wall is like, just shoot him. They shoot him a bajillion times. Yeah. Now that they're a force against him going against Skank, his powers are still intact.
It's open season now.
Yeah, because it's like, dude, like I'm trying to get him, and I will kill until I get to him. Like that's allowed. Love it. This is a brutal scene. Like Eric just dismantles people. This is where you're going to see the best. Like I agree with Mike. There should have been more choreography if that kind of existed at this time. But this is where you see the best of it. This is where he's flipping around. He's punching people. He's kicking people. He
got
gets
a samurai sword at some point.
He's got
course
guns.
he does.
Well, I mean, why not? I mean, as silly as that sounds, I'm like, if you're like an unstoppable killing machine, sky's the limit. There's a sword cabinet. Have a little fun in your work.
He
Like,
did have a pretty sick sword.
Yeah.
cabinet.
It's
was.
Top Dollar's fault for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so like Eric's. I like that he's like using guns, and when guns aren't there, he's using knives. He's using a
Very
sword.
versatile.
He's killing everyone. I also like this move with Skank. He does get and catches up to Skank, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you, Skank. And Skank pulls this awesome move. He's like, I'm not Skank. That's Skank over there. Skank's dead. I was like, bull. Like if
That's
this
what
is,
I do.
If this
Yeah.
is D&D, you better roll that 20. And if you get that 20, this is gonna work.
Didn't have enough charisma.
He rolls a 1, and
It wasn't that
He rolls
bad.
a
I mean,
5.
come on. There you go. I was thinking 5 or 6.
Yeah, he's got the mind thing. There is no check to beat that.
I think why I'm telling you he rolled a 1 is he's so drugged out that
That's
like even
true.
Eric is like, this lunacy.
Also, like, haven't they met before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Eye to eye. They were face to face.
Yeah.
So
It's some other guy.
so the comeuppance is he's thrown out a window, just like Eric was.
He gets Draven.
Yeah, he gets everyone's turned against themselves. T-Bird, the car, is used against himself. Skank's thrown out a window like Eric was. Tintin, his knives are used against him. Fun Boy's the most drugged out one. Drugs are used against him. So everyone kind of gets their comeuppance. So Eric's done. Like Top Dollar, Micah, and Grange leave. Most of the mob bosses are dead. By the way, My Life with the Thrillco cult shut down a little early because some bodies are flying around.
Yeah.
But Eric's down. Eric's like, I killed everyone. He goes back to the graveyard because he's like, my job is done. But Sarah's there, and I think, kind of allowed. He's like, well, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to my grave. I know that's not, I guess, technically part of these rules that we said were kind of cut out, but he's leaving. And he gives the wedding ring or the engagement ring to Sarah. He's like, I think Shelley would have wanted you to have this, but I've got to go. Kind of a sweet ending. And Sarah's like, okay, bye. Eric is trying to zone out. Yeah, trying to zone out. And she's kidnapped by the three left, Grange, Micah, Top Dollar. And they take her ring. They're going to use this against her to, bait out Eric. And Micah's noted, like, the power comes from the eyes and blah, blah, blah. And we've got to get the crow.
Yeah,
and
somehow she pieces together, like, it's the crow. It's probably the crow.
Yeah,
we got to get the crow.
Take out the crow.
Yeah.
Yeah, take out the crow. And again, so the trivia was there was no supposed to be in the original, there was no real connection to the crow. Like, and that's why I said, like, I like that crow vision. Like, that's kind of fine. Mm-hmm. But there was no, like, if the crow's alive, you're alive. It was this. You have rules. You have to kill everyone you set out to, like, kill. Don't go against that. If you do, there's problems. So this is the problem. He knows Sarah's kidnapped. And I guess this was supposed to be the bigger moment of, like, that ghost. And it was going to be like, you're supposed to go back to your grave. If you do not do this, you will wander like I did. I have been warning you. Don't go against this. And Eric's like, screw it. Like, I'm going to go save Sarah. And he goes and encounters Sarah. He does not have his powers. So in this, they wrote it, the crow's shot. He loses his powers. The crow's not dead, but he doesn't have his powers. Eric, that is. Micah takes the bird. We get Ehud bursting in with a flare gun. You go with it. Go with it.
I have nothing to go with. Just
he was busting ghosts. He was in the graveyard doing ghost busting.
Ehud running in like guns ablazing.
And a flare gun.
And a flare. Yeah, he has like his police officer pistol and a fucking flare gun.
And he takes down the Candyman.
He does take down the Candyman.
Didn't we just watch a movie with really bad flare gun usage? Oh, the
Hell Comes to Frogtown. Yeah.
There you go.
That was really good flare gun usage, by the way.
This was a good flare gun. Listen, he busts down a door. He shot a flare gun that disarmed Grange because Grange had a sniper gun. He looks up and then Ernie Hudson shoots him.
Yeah. Well, you know why he busted down the door?
Because Bustin makes him
feel good.
I tried to shut it down.
No, you can't. Emily, this is off the rails.
Okay.
Ernie Hudson is also in the Basketball Diaries. And the same composer, Graham Revell, did the soundtrack for that, or the score for that.
Did they hang out?
I don't know.
Okay.
There's a
we should write
connection
Ehud.
there. Yeah.
Okay. He might write back, actually.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Good.
What's he doing?
Get him on.
He's a nice guy.
He's a nice guy.
Unfortunately, there is a talk between Eric and Ernie Hudson, and he's like, just go up there. He's like, I don't really have my powers, but try to stay behind me. And Ernie Hudson's like, cool, and doesn't. And then
I really like this part.
Micah shoots him.
Yeah. Ernie Hudson's like, hey, how about you just, I'll like be behind you because you can't die. He's like, no.
Yeah. It's like, that doesn't work anymore.
So, funny fact.
Ernie Hudson gets shot by Micah, and he's like, I think I screwed things up here.
Oopsie.
And Eric's like, yeah, I told you to stay behind me.
Instructions not clear.
Not even that. He's just like, toodles. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I know we talked about Mike's back and forth like and dislike of the Gothic imagery. I do like the lighting when Eric burst open through those church doors and it's that shaft of light.
Come on,
Like,
that's good.
A lot of
That's
cinematography
good
right
stuff.
here was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you could just tell like this dude is gonna kill you. Like I just like his look down. My arms are partying. Like I was about to go die, dude. I'm back again. Like I'm gonna kill all of you. Super mad. I also, on the note, the kind of cinematography and the lighting, I feel there's a lot of crossover to my favorite anime, Cowboy Bebop. In these moments, when Spike goes against Vicious in those moments, very Crow-esque,
Sure.
Gothic.
That's fair.
I feel that there might have been a little homage, a little bit in the drawing and the artistic stylings of Cowboy Bebop to this, but I don't know. But so Micah then just gets a bird to the face.
That raven going to town on Bailing's face was the best part of this movie.
That raven pretending to be a crow this whole goddamn movie turned back into a raven immediately.
It smoked her eyeballs.
It did smoke her eyeballs.
And then she falls down a bell tower and gets on the rope, and she's like, help, and then no one helps her, and she falls to her death.
So sad.
She Dravens.
She does not get up from that. Then Eric goes out basically onto a rooftop, and Top Dollar has Sarah and kind of lets go, and she's now hanging from a rooftop. And then Eric goes to fight Top Dollar. He has no powers, and Top Dollar kind of beats the crap out of him, punches him around a bit, stabs him in the back, runs him through with a samurai sword. Really nice. Mm-hmm. And I do kind of like this. I like kind of the end moment is he just floods, Eric says, I have something I want to give you, and floods Top Dollar's mind with all of the trauma that he got from Ernie Hudson, that Ernie Hudson witnessed all of Shelley's trauma, and now he is uploading that. It disarms Top Dollar. He flies right off the rooftop.
30 days of pain.
I do like how Top Dollar kind of like respects Eric and tells him like, hey, you're the best thing that's happened in this town in a while. Thanks for making it lively.
Yeah, like a really weird talk. Like, yeah, totally. I totally agree, Jeremy. Like, all these other jokers I've gone against aren't really like you. You got supernatural powers. You gave me something to do. I beat your ass. Dope. Probably not gonna have a better fight in my life. But yeah, well, he's going off a rooftop.
Not anymore.
Yeah, he's impaled. I do like he's impaled on a gargoyle that is spitting out its blood out of him.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. Then Eric goes downstairs, and Ernie Hudson's alive. The cops are coming. He'll make it through. And then he says goodbye to everyone and goes to his grave, and he's met with Shelley, and he is now in eternal peace.
Oh, finally.
And then you get a overdub that like real love lasts forever. And that's, if you want to really keep someone's memory intact, just keep loving them and thinking about them. And I kind of like I like the sentiment as, again, the narrative overdub. I did not. But I like the sentiment of that idea. And this basically is it. Like, Eric goes back to his grave. Hopefully Sarah's mom is cleaned up due to the experience. And that they would live happily ever after. Ernie Hudson tells that other detective to go to hell, and basically credits roll, and that is the end of the movie. Before we get to the final synopsis, as always, feel free to reach out to us at rabbittroopsucks@gmail.com. Do you have a movie you would like us to review? Do you have some ideas of movies? Do you have trivia? Give us that 5 out of 5 star review on any platform that plays podcasts. I always like noting, as Mike has said, if you don't know how to get on a podcast platform or an app, get a child in your life. Be like, hey, little kid, get me on this app.
Someone can help you. You must have a neighbor with a kid or something.
Your neighbor's cat could probably
Make
get
sure
you
there's
on.
no police around.
Feel free to go to our website, rabbittroopsucks.com. There are pictures. Emily will have a picture up there. There are our latest episodes are there, but as noted, they're in full everywhere else. And then we're on Instagram and Facebook, and feel free to write us. I know a lot of you have been writing about more recent films. Thanks. And a lot of people have been highlighting like movies they saw ages ago or where they saw them. Super cool. Like, I feel movies bring us together. That's why we do a podcast. So now that we're, informing everyone, back to The Crow, everyone's views on The Crow. I'm going to start with Jeremy, wildcard. Jeremy, what's your views on The Crow?
Yeah, so I still like this movie. I will say, like, and I've said this many times before, like, movies that we have seen in the past as kids, Paul, and then we watch them again for this podcast, and I have more, in my opinion, a higher intellect than I did back then. Sure. Some people would disagree. But, like, there are just certain things that I notice more that stick in my mind that make it, I don't know, like the whole premise around this gang and what they're doing in Detroit, even though it really, and I love vengeance movies. Like, John Wick is probably one of my most favorite vengeance movies, just as a standalone movie. But like the things that happened around Detroit and this gang and what they're doing and trying to do, and it didn't stick well. It didn't really have any relevance at all. But I just kind of noticed that more within this movie. But I still like this movie. I'll probably watch this again at some point in time in my life. I have no problems with. I do have problems with it, but they're fine. I can get past those. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it again. I think it would, like I said, it would have been better if I could have watched it with you guys. But yeah, I still like this movie. I was telling Pat Mana about this yesterday. We played golf, and he's like, "Oh my God, are you reviewing The Crow?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, that's one of my favorite movies of all time. So he was excited. He says he's going to listen to this one.
Hi, Pat. I hope you're listening to this episode of Rabbit Troop Sucks about The Crow. Emily, I'm going to go with you. What are you thinking about The Crow?
I kind of agree with everything. It doesn't hold up terribly well, but I still like it. There's just so many holes. There's so much missing, but it's through no fault of their own, I think. So, yeah. I'd watch it again.
Lamar.
I will.
The one thing that stands out with this movie and me is the trailer. I just remember being a kid, not really a kid, I was a teenager around this time, but just seeing commercials for this movie. And I just remember that it's like a Stone Temple Pilot song playing throughout the trailer. And there were certain scenes that were flashing through it. There's a scene where the Crow throws the knife at Tintin, or not, Tintin throws a knife at the Crow and he catches it in his hands. And there's another one where he lights the insignia and the Crow insignia on the ground from the lighter fluid. Those two scenes pop up in my head a lot. And unfortunately, that's all the movie is to me. I just go back like, wow, I remember that commercial.
That's funny.
The movie's a movie, but I remember more about. I remember
the dead guy back.
I remember memories of the trailer and a commercial than the actual movie.
Jeremy's like, I'll watch this movie again. Lamar's like, I will watch the trailer at least once in a few years.
Love the trailer. Movie's all right. I don't hate it.
Yeah.
And it's not offensive. It feels like 1994. It has the soundtrack of 1994 in it. Oh, goodness. It's not offensive to me. It's okay. It has some weird slow motion scenes. I don't know what that is for framing.
I really feel some of that was going to be different if it was intact. I feel that. So that's when you say that.
Okay.
Because I feel those slow motion scenes, that's when I was like, the composer got a little like interestingly like more airy.
Is that why we had a couple sweet freeze frames?
Yeah. I was thinking of that.
Still the 90s though too. I mean,
God
help
us.
okay.
I think like at the end of the first scene, the cut to the next scene was like a fade to black.
They did like a star swipe.
Well, there's one scene where it like totally freeze frames on Brandon Lee, and like I almost was just thinking like, was just like a tribute, like just remember him like this, like it was like, he's kind of looking down and he's looking forlorn, but it was like a nice shot, and I was like, oh man,
that's the scene where Sarah was looking for him in the building,
in the apartment, like at the end of that scene.
I did like that scene. The weird slow motion cut off scene at the end was kind of weird. The only other thing I'll say about this movie is this is probably like the only movie shot entirely with fluorescent bulbs and a flashlight and some lamps.
I read that the director wanted to do this as a black and white film to pay tribute to the graphic novel, and only the flashbacks would have had bursts of color, and the studio shut him down immediately on that.
That could have been done okay, but like I loved it in Sin City. I thought
Sin City got it right.
Did it well, but here I don't think it would have done well at all. But this movie's okay. I will say it's not the greatest thing on earth, but it's not offensive.
I'm gonna go to Collin on this one.
Yeah, I kind of agree with everything you guys have said. It's, Mike's objections that it's barely cohesive if you look at it at all. But, there's so many really cool things about this movie that it makes it a good watch every time. Like, I came in with, like, a hypercritical mind of, like, wanting to tear this thing apart, but kind of immediately just kind of gave in and just enjoyed it again. Like right at the beginning, in one of the voiceovers, Sarah mentioned something like, oh, well, if it's true love, like it'll keep you together, like nothing will tear you apart. And then immediately the Crow brings him back from the dead and presumably separates him from Shelley to do this whole vengeance thing, which as a plot point is terrible. But
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I took it that he wasn't with Shelley, that he was in like kind of like a limbo of like anger.
Same.
So like he couldn't move on and she did.
sure.
And
He
so
should have
he,
named his
but he
band
was-
Limbo of Anger.
Oh man, perfect.
I'll put that down.
But yeah, so I mean, the music's cool. Like this, in my opinion, the cinematography is cool, especially in the church scenes at the end. And you know, enough of it is like just it still hits for me.
All right, Mike.
It does.
Mike, you're up.
Oh boy.
So I think I mentioned this last week as well. Like, I was kind of excited to rewatch this movie. I saw this movie in the theater when it came out, and I have not seen it since then. And when I saw it in the theater, I fucking hated it. But I was excited because you guys won't shut up about it. And you were talking it up, and I was like, you know, maybe I was wrong. Maybe like with an objective adult eye, like I'll find some value here. No, this movie is still terrible. I maintain that the only reason anyone likes it is because of the tragedy surrounding it. Like, if Brandon Lee didn't die and this was the movie that they made on purpose, everyone would be like, this movie fucking sucks. Like, Brandon Lee is not a good actor. This movie doesn't make any sense. The only reason people care about it is because there was a tragedy surrounding it. And that sucks. Like, maybe he would have gone on to do great things. I've never seen him in another movie. He made, what, 2 additional ones?
There's more than that. There's
Okay.
like a movie called like Laser Mission. I didn't
Oh,
even
that
bring
sounds
up
cool.
That's like unwatchable. It was like,
Laser Mission, not good? Weird.
no, like, guys, that was like literally like the first thing this
Yeah.
dude did as an actor. So I can't fault it. That's why I didn't even bring it up. Like,
No,
that was
that-
like,
and that's
that was
fair.
like day one. Like, here's your job.
Yeah.
So I was like, we don't need to watch
No,
that.
and that's fair. Like, I do like the director quite a bit. Just like to preface, like, goth culture I think is stupid. I didn't have that brooding, like, weird, dark whatever when I was a teenager. Like, none of the music in this movie was really for me. I didn't like any of those bands. Billy, if you're listening, please don't fire me from the goth band that I'm in. But like, I don't like The Cure. I never really liked Nine Inch Nails. Like, this wasn't my genre of thing. And this movie's so fucking stupid. Like, it's boring. It doesn't make any sense. You're describing a really dope comic book of which none of the cool stuff was included in this movie. Like, Ghost Cowboy might have been cool, but he wasn't there. I don't know. I don't ever want to watch this movie.
The question I have with
It's
Ghost
Spirit
Cowboy.
Cowboy.
Yeah, with the Spirit Cowboy, the question I have is, I got the impression from like what I read was he wasn't like talking. It wasn't like, hey, Eric. It was just kind of like, no. And I really would want to know how that would have come off to the audience. Like how delicate. Like, I do like this idea that he had rules. Like if that was in, like, hey, dude, we brought you back from the dead to like brutally kill all the people that messed with your life. Like, what a cool story. Like,
Yeah.
like Psycho.
And unfortunately, we didn't see that. We saw whatever the fuck this was.
Well, clearly, I am going to disagree with Mike. I mean, that was just. I mean, that was on the surface. But I mean,
Pistols at dawn.
Well, one thing that I keep positing is because the director and like the families involved were so upfront that this was not finished, but like, can you please finish this with care to pay tribute to my son, my fiance, like all parties considered. I do feel, to a point, it is hard to critique this film because they've totally been upfront about it. Like, this movie wasn't finished. We were going to do some other things. We didn't want to do other things. And some of the other things we were going to do, we thought were super disrespectful. So we didn't do them. So I'm like, I feel everyone did everything right. That came out of tragedy.
Paul, I don't disagree with you. I guess what I'm positing is if this movie popped into existence and no one knew any backstory, you would not like this movie.
Well, one thing I would note too is, but it would have been more finished and polished.
But
if that
like,
was the case.
no, for sure. But I mean, like, if the movie that we know as The Crow, as a finished product, appeared as a movie, and there was no tragedy or backstory and no, like, homage, if this was just a finished product and everyone was like, we made this movie, we think it's pretty cool, no one would like this movie.
I don't know.
I do.
Would be
I'm right. You're
it would
wrong.
be a bad comic book movie.
Yeah, it would be a bad comic book movie.
Which
but
is
you
still
fucking
totally
goth
watchable.
wieners are jerking off over this thing, and it fucking
Mike, it
sucks.
feels like
no.
this is. It takes place in Detroit, so I figure this is RoboCop for goths.
God, but
and at that point, it's not really. If you take it at that point, it's not really that bad.
Yeah, Lamar.
Well, now Mike is
Lamar, way to call it on that one.
It's really not that bad if you think about it.
no, I disagree. I still think this movie's not bad.
Well, to kind of finalize it, and let me finish really quick, just like my review. I kind of noted from the get-go, like, this graphic novel is awesome. It is not for kids. It is not for, someone who's younger. It is totally that NC-17 vibe. And if you're going for that, like, read it. If you're into graphic novels, it's super solid. Noting that the writer was also the artist, I really feel puts a lot into that. My view overall is this. That graphic novel and this movie should end it. Like that, this is a story, and there's been branched off, like, I know James O'Barr has written, like, extensions, and there's other crows, and blah, blah, blah. I don't think that should have happened. I think Mike doesn't like the gothic aspect, and I can respect that, but this is my view. The graphic novel is like a perfect representation of when goth culture and music kind of comes together and goes well. To that extreme.
I would have liked to have seen that movie.
Yeah, this movie approaches this. But yeah, I would have seen this movie, and I'll tell you why. It was released by Miramax. I was totally into indie films. This is who released Clerks, various other people, unfortunately all tainted by the Weinstein Company. There are other members, actors in this film. Because of other films I've seen, I would have gone back and saw this. I also love the bands in this film, so the soundtrack would have pulled me in. This movie's totally not perfect. I mean, I agree with everyone in this room. There are holes in this movie. But I do enjoy watching it. I would definitely watch it again, like routinely. No.
So when are we going to go see the new one in the theater?
Oh yeah, we're never going to see the new one.
Why? Because it looks stupid and unwatchable.
Yeah. If anyone has seen, like, the franchise burst out, there was a television show for a couple seasons. There was multiple films. All of them have bombed. Like, this new movie, I know several of the cast members, including Ernie Hudson, were like, I won't watch it. Like, after my experience, I was done. And they were like, this like, let it go. I think one cast member even was like, if you're doing this, why are you redoing the Eric character? And they were like, oh, we're not really. The character's name is Eric Draven in the new movie. Like, come on, dude.
Derek Braven.
like, I don't know. But I do like this film. There's a lot of aspects. I agree with Collin. Rewatching it, there's a lot of, like, cool things. And kind of, like, exploring the unknown in my mind of, like, this is what they did. I wonder why and how. And try to do it respectfully. I think that's cool. But yeah, I mean, I think verdict's out, but 30 years have gone by. And my argument of why this podcast should do it, outside of just 30 years, just a lot of people have not seen this iteration. They have seen or read something else. And I would implore you to at least go back to read the comic if you're interested at all. The original, that is. But we've got some big news, and that big news is coming up next week. We celebrate our 100th episode. 100 episodes. You can now listen to us for over 6 days straight, and we will tell you about films. Our film that we saved for episode 100 is 1995's Hackers. You're going to see Tintin, but you're going to see him as Lord Nikon, and we have a special guest. Thank you so much. Renly Santiago agreed to do an interview with us, who plays Phantom Freak, and we have it. And he is going to be joined with us, and we'll go through a description. And all of that will be in our next 100th episode. So Renly, thank you so much. Next episode, again, episode 100, Hackers. If you haven't seen Hackers, please go watch Hackers. For love, for the cheese, for the fun. Hackers, but yeah.
Are we gonna smoke some eyeballs before we record?
I have been smoking eyeballs
what's in this cup,
with everyone.
You don't have your chalice of eyeballs ready?
Before every episode. I thought that was routine.
Also a good band name.
Chalice of eyeballs.
Yeah, but listen to Hackers. Join us for our 100th episode. Anyone have any last thoughts about The Crow?
Mike,
say something. I dare you to say something.
I would rather watch The Crows Have Eyes 3, The Crowing, than this fucking movie. Moira Rose is a gem.
She is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the new Crow, instead of using a raven as a crow, they use a condor.
Do they?
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
oh man,
Pterodactyl, caveman crow.
Yeah. It's just a 6-foot tall bird sitting on his shoulder.
Sure.
They put a wig on it.
We're getting into roller gator territory. Someone's got an acoustic guitar. Well,
They use the owl from Gymkata.
well,
There's an owl in Gymkata.
God damn it.
I think no matter what, even leaving off on a high note, it's really sad that anyone would lose their life in a craft like this. Rest in peace, Brandon Lee. And Emily, thanks for joining us on your
Thanks
debut.
for having me.
Yeah, debut of Rabbit Troop Sucks. And as always, Rabbit Troop Sucks.
Peace.
How did that make you?